Well, for over numerous decades, my next guest competed against some of the best, and this Hall of Fame behind me features some of those drivers and trainers that Michael Teuma competed against on a regular basis at Harold Park. I caught up with Michael on one of his rare trips to Club and Angle to do a bit of reminiscing. Michael, it's good to catch up with you. I just mentioned we're standing here in front of the legends, and a lot of those legends you competed against on a regular basis at Harold Park. It must have been thrilling and also a very tough experience.
Oh, it was very tough and very thrilling, and it was always exciting, especially at Harold Park, and there were some very good drivers in that era.
Percy Hall, Vic Frost, J.E. Binskin, Kevin Newman, the list goes on and on. Who was your toughest opponent?
Oh, boy, geez, there was quite a few. All the ones you mentioned, including, I suppose, Tony Turnbull was very tough, very competitive, as were the others, I think, and Cyril Caffin, of course.
Yeah, you've had a wonderful association with Cyril. We'll talk about him in a moment, but those gentlemen you just mentioned, particularly Tony and Vic Frost, asked for no quarter, gave no quarter.
Exactly. They asked for none, but they didn't give an inch.
Michael, your career started following in the footsteps of your dad.
That's right, yes. Early on, Dad was interested in trotting. He tried one himself, it didn't do much good, and then he bought one off the Dawsons, a horse called Rayama's there, which went to Peter Tritton at the time, and started off. It was a very good horse. It went to Harold Park and won a 3-year-old, and won a good race there, beating Rocket Glenfern one night, and that got the bug started, I guess.
Talking about reminiscing, you come up with the name of Rocket Glenfern. Gee, what a crowd pleaser he was.
He sure was. He was a top 2-year-old, trained by a champion horseman and a very good friend of mine for years and years, right to the end.
Yep.
In Joe Ilsley, of course, yeah.
Your father, Bill, apart from being involved in harness racing, as a hobby trainer like yourself, was also very adept in other areas.
That's right. Well, he was a hard-working fella, of course, and we started off in a poultry processing plant, and that went on for the best part of 40 years till the year 2000. That's why I always just trained as a hobby trainer, and where I fitted it in, I don't know, with work commitments, of course.
How many horses at any one time would your dad have, and now, as far as you're during the peak of your career?
Oh, Dad only trained the odd one, and of course I only started off with 1 or 2, and probably at the peak I only trained 6 horses, no more than that. I couldn't handle it anymore because I was still involved in the poultry industry.
There was an association goes way back to your dad with the Tritton family.
That's right, yeah. Well, Peter and his dad, of course, even drove the horse at the time, and when the horse broke down, Ryan was there, he actually went to Joe Ilsley, and that's how that association started. And from there on, we bought a nice 2-year-old off Lee Wanderless. He was one of the stars at the time and went to Bathurst, won a debutante stakes, and he still had him, and he went to Owen Glendenning's stable, and that association, of course, started with Owen. Just
on the subject of Joe Ilsley, he was a quirky character. He used to do things in a different manner to everyone else, but with horses that did break down, he was just a master. He was second to none.
Oh, he sure was. He trained horses at Bayview on the sand and in the salt water. He was very hard to copy, of course. He was an unorthodox trainer, but got him there, and when they raced, of course, they just raced on and won heaps and heaps of races, of course.
You mentioned Cyril Caffin. You had a wonderful respect and an outstanding association with one of the greats.
Oh, I sure did. He was a champion driver right to the end, and he could match it with just about anybody, and he'd drive in a race and tell you what went on behind him without turning his head around. You know, I'm sure he had eyes on his backside, you know.
Yes, currently sitting on 99 individual winners, so we've got that box to tick off very shortly. As far as your first winner at Harold Park was a horse called Lonely King.
That's right, yeah. He was a horse that Owen Glendenning seen at Parks one night, and he came up for sale and brought him down and trialled him, and of course I bought him, and he taught me a few tricks. And he was barred at the time, which I didn't know, for knocking the field down, and he went on and won quite a few races at Harold Park. you know, very tough customer, and like I said, taught me a lot of things, and I'm still learning, I guess.
Oh, we never stop learning, Michael. Runner-up on 2 occasions in the Harold Park Premiership, and that was only with a very small team of 8 horses.
Yeah, eight or even 6 at the time, but we went to Harold Park every Friday, and I was just continually winning races, and I had a good horse at the time called Gavaldale, and he won 10 in one season. I think he equalled the Harold Park track record before he left the stable. It's the only horse I ever trained outside of our horses, and he was a good horse. He probably won about 15 out of 20 races, yeah.
You've always had a good horse, Rapid Fella, Dynamite Danny, marvellous performer, Jackus Singh, Shape Up Mike, Studley Topper. Now, Gracie Taljuice, there's an interesting story to this wonderful mare. Named after your mum, she had 167 starts, 14 wins, but 41 placings. But the surname, Taljuice, tell us all about that.
Oh, well, that's a curly one. Well, Taljuice is actually a clan name, I suppose you'd call it. Back in Malta and Gozo, where I come from, each family come from a certain clan, and Taljuice was our clan. And I thought, well, if I name it that, every European that was Maltese that knew who had the horse. And it's funny, when she won a final at Bathurst as a 4-year-old, she won one of them finals there, and I got mail and phone calls from all over the world from Maltese people knowing that it was Taljuice. Once it went online, everyone clicked on. People do that and I don't. I'm not switched on like that.
Did you have a lot of fun with her, just the same?
I sure did, yeah. I think she won about 14 races and most importantly $150,000 or something like that. And she was just one of many, I think, that gave us a lot of pleasure.
You had some interesting neighbours back in the day. You've mentioned one of them in Owen Glendenning, who was near John Tapp, and also Jog McNemby was in the mix, so that certainly makes up for a very interesting neighbourhood.
Oh, it sure was, yeah. There was Cyril Caffin and John and Owen, and of course the great Percy Hall was on Owen's place in his own barn, and we all used Owen's half-mile track there, and I had a swimming pool and people swam at my place, and I had a sand track which I till this day can't get rid of because I learnt with Joe Wilsley, and I still train unorthodox, and now and then I get it right and win a race, you know.
Geez, there must have been some very interesting conversations going on during those days.
There sure was, and it was a great time, and I know Harold Park's gone now, but I still maintain it was one of the greatest things in trotting.
Well, it goes down as in history as being the golden years of harness racing. I don't think that will ever change, Michael.
Well, that's right. I guess it was, but I think we've got to move on with the future, and this track is certainly holding up to its name. And interesting, I trained the first winner on Menangle. There was a horse called Jackus Singh, yeah, and he was probably one of my better horses. I won the 4-year-old championship in Queensland with him, beating a very good horse at the time that was winning everything here. That not Sloyes, what was his name? I can't think of the horse's name just now. That's what age does to you. Anyway, and he went on and he won a heat of the Sydney Derby here also, and I drove him and won the Newcastle Derby myself. So he was a good horse if I drove him anyway. Yeah.
Your son Jason still dabbles in harness racing?
Yes. With work commitments and family, he's just taking a back seat at the moment, but it won't be long. The couple that we've got, I think I'll put them in Jason's name and go on from there.
He's got a very interesting job these days.
Yeah, he works with Amazon as some type of supervisor. Don't tell me, I don't know, but he's up there and he does his hours and got family commitments, and I still get him on the weekends helping me, so he's a very good boy. Man, actually, not a boy.
Good that he's got a job where you have to deliver things on time, because you delivered on time on numerous occasions at Harold Park. Just on 2 other of your opponents, I'd like to get your thought. Kevin Newman and also Joey Binskin.
Oh, well, they were just great, weren't they? I mean, they knew form back to front and they drove accordingly, especially Kevin Newman. He'd read a book and it'd turn out just like he did. I think he had about 8 or 9 drives for me and won 5 races, you know, just a great horseman. And Binskin, well, he just stood out on his own also, didn't he?
Well, Michael, I've been waiting for a while to catch up with you, to have a bit of a chin wag. I'm glad you're here today, and it's always enjoyable to be reminiscing. Thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks very much. It's a pleasure. Thanks again.